Welcome everybody. We're now joining the Zoom with the room, and everyone is most welcome. Clive, could I actually start by identifying any new visitors, new guests?
We don't have any new visitors to today, President David, but we do have one of our regular visitors with a new title, and that is, of course, Steve Conway, who has just been elected to be the RI Director for 2023-2025. And
do we have a round of congratulations for E?
Many thanks, many thanks.
No,
very honoured and
no acceptance speech required at the moment, Eve. I'm sure, we'll come back to that. But it's great to see you all and all the people in the room. Do we have any new visitors in the room? I don't actually, other than the speaker, I don't think we do. So moving rapidly on, the first business of the meeting is actually, I think, Clive, an induction.
Yes, indeed. Nabil Malul, who is with you, I hope.
Nabil is here, and I'll ask him to come up towards us so he can appear on screen very shortly.
Good.
Do you want to do a few words? No, let me actually induct Nabil and then ask you to say a few words, Clive. That's okay.
Well, yes. Well, usually I introduce him first, and then you induct, don't you?
Okay.
Yeah.
You introduce Nabil.
President David, my fellow Rotarians, I am delighted and honoured that today again we can induct a new member, Nabil Malul. Nabil has a very distinguished career in finance. Presently, he's the Managing Director of the Executive Office. The Executive Office leads a one-stop investment banking services dedicated to governments, organisations, corporations. They actually work on proactive, measurable and sustainable projects aiming to develop an inclusive financial sector in the United Kingdom. He was also the founder and chairman of the Gulf Merchant Bank Limited in Dubai, and a role that he held for 12 years. Prior to that, he was the financial services advisor to the Dubai government, and he has had many other distinguished. Sorry about that. Had muted everybody. He's had many other distinguished appointments over the years. He says that his interests are making a difference in the world, reading, music, art, scuba diving, and fine dining. President David, it is my honour to present to you Nabil Malul for induction as a member of the Rotary Club of London. President David.
Thank you very much indeed, Clive. And there is no greater privilege of a president but to induct a new member. Nabil was proposed by Clive, I think.
Yes, indeed.
His proposal has been reviewed in accordance with the Constitution and bylaws of the club, and we now proceed to admit you into membership of the Rotary Club of London. That's into the Fellowship of Rotary, of which there are over 1.2 million in the world. There are 35,000 clubs in the world, so you have a neighbour and a friend in almost every country and every city in the world. Our club is a special club, and I'm going to just show you two documents. I may have to leave the screen for this. The first is our charter, which all right, yes. So first is our charter, which I'll show you in a moment. The second is our family tree. As a club, we are the first club outside North America to be chartered, and in our early years, we grew very, very rapidly from a small number, I think 16 at our first meeting, to 300 within 10 years. We found that we couldn't actually accommodate all those members, and so it became a mission to spread Rotary throughout London, and the target was to have 1,000 members in London in 1921. So we started facilitating the creation of additional clubs. And as you will see from this, you will see from this family tree, we have been responsible for sponsoring clubs from 1921 through to last year. We have over 128 clubs that have been sponsored by the Rotary Club of London. And our charter, which is a particularly valuable document of ours, signed by Paul Harris himself in 1912, when he was still a relatively young man. As you can see, we were then called the Rotary Club of London, and we haven't changed since then. But on earlier documents, we were actually called the Rotary Club London. There was no of or with. Our mission is to provide service to others, promote integrity and advance world understanding, goodwill and peace through our fellowship of business, professional and community leaders. You are to share in this effort. You have been approved for membership in the club because we believe you to be a worthy representative of your vocation, which will be both a pleasure and a duty to communicate to us. We're all interested in the ideals of Rotary and willing to do our share in translating these ideals into tangible realities. You've agreed to accept the obligations attached to your membership of this club. I hope you read the constitutional bylaws and to obey this club's constitutional bylaws. Fellow Rotarians, I'm happy to present you Rotarian Nabil Malou, and I'll ask actually our Vice President to present you with the badge as our newest member.
The newest member in the whole of Rotary International.
The newest member, the whole of Rotary International, this particular time. Nabil, as the newest member in Rotary Net, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you for the introduction slide. And I'm really honored, so dear President, dear Vice President, to be part of this family. I was in fact acting as an ambassador behind the scene for decades, especially when I was based in Dubai. One of my fellow board members, so her name is Rula Hamdan, was for a couple of years as the president of the Rotary Club of Dubai. So I'm familiar with the functioning of the clubs all around the world. And I'm happy also to be bound by the servicing the board. But I can tell you that from young age, by having my alma mater, Sorbonne University, I was crossing every morning. So the statue of Auguste Comte, where it was written "Mourir pour autrui," which means dying for others. And I can tell you that later on at Harvard Business School, we got also the same, if you want, motto, where we need to serve, if you want, the world around us and to make good. I will simply add, and I will keep aside my professional career because I was lucky to have an exceptional one. I spent my life advising governments around the world. My key achievement was the setup of the Dubai International Financial Center. It's something real which is there. I have done it under the instruction or under the advice of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, who is presently the ruler of the Emirates of Dubai, but at the time he was the Crown Prince. But one fact changed and one event changed my life, which is the diagnosis of my daughter with a tumor in the brain in 2015, where I was obliged to spend with her 3 years in a hospital in Paris. And I committed to God, who saved indirectly my daughter, that I will spend the rest of my life using my experience, using my portfolio, using my knowledge, using my connections in order to serve others. So God gave me everything. I need to share it with others. And please use me as an ambassador for this wonderful club. And my door is open, and I will be all ears, and I will be here to serve any single positive impact around us. And thank you again, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Allow me to shake you. Let's have a photograph. We're just pausing for a photograph. Thank you, Eva. I'm pleased that a scan has established there are no viruses in our media. It is, of course, a concern that there are new varieties of virus within the country, and we will be asking members to take extra precautions in attending physical meetings for the time being, if they will, particularly not appearing at a meeting if you're not feeling well, having a lateral flow test if you can before you attend a meeting, and generally respecting other members and their issues. Thank you. Moving on, birthdays. We have two members' birthdays to celebrate, but first I want to mention two other events, two other celebrations. The first is the 30th of November, which is St. Andrew's birthday. And it's the day on which last year Hugh Kirk gave us an excellent history of St. Andrew. He has it with him, but we won't be receiving it from him today. But I thank you for being prepared to give us that history. I'm sure we will want it again in the future. And the other is Hanukkah. From yesterday until December the 6th, it is the Jewish celebration of Hanukkah. And we wish all our Jewish friends the most enjoyable period from over the period of Hanukkah, and hoping that they all have a good family and commemorative time. Okay. It is actually the birthday of Ken Standish on the 1st of December, and Gerhard Meyer and Robert Ghazi on the 5th of December. Robert, we have you with us, but I can't give you a pen. So happy birthday, Robert. I don't see either Ken or Gerhard.
No, they're not on they're not online, President David.
Thank you. We have meetings upcoming. I just wanted to advise people that next week on the 6th of December, we actually have two speakers. We've been very, very fortunate. In addition to having Mr. Rambabol from Nepal speaking in the club on the subject of strengthening relations between the UK and Nepal, we also have the past president of Sri Lanka, Madam Katarunga. I probably got the name slightly wrong, but I always think of her as Mrs. Mandanayaka, who will be visiting us on Zoom to talk about a subject to be confirmed, but effectively the impact of women in politics in Sri Lanka.
David, point out president of this,
Oh yeah, she's past president. She served 10 years as past president, past president of Sri Lanka, not of the Rotary Club of Colombo. Though I heard her speak at Colombo, which is why I was so keen that she actually did speak to us when the opportunity presented itself. Christmas lunch coming up. We need more tombola prizes, more raffle prizes, but most of all, we need people to commit to a table. I think we've had 2 or 3 tables taken so far. We won't be at capacity, so feel free to bring a friend or family along with you to our meeting on the 13th of December. I think everything else can wait till next week. So sorry. Oh, right. Sorry, do you want to do a quick report from the foundation chair?
Good afternoon, everybody. Just to say that on the 2nd of December, we have a foundation appreciation evening, and we normally meet somewhere physically, but because of COVID, we're not able to do that. So this year, it's a Zoom meeting at 7 o'clock this Thursday. Please check your diaries. We normally get a couple of awards because of our contributions to Rotary on this day. So I believe we'll be sending you a link in the next day or so. Is that right, David?
I think it's with Candy, she's on screen.
Oh, is Candy on screen? Yes.
Candy on screen?
No, Candy's not on screen, but we'll organize a link. And once the link comes to you, they'll send you an email. It gives you all the login details. So 7 o'clock Thursday, please, in your diary to see what you've done for Rotary as a group. Thank you.
Carol service on the 6th of December. Is it 5th of December? There are other notices that have gone out with a district notice and have been included in our bulletin, which I'd ask you to look at, including the district carol service that was at Finchley Methodist Church at 7 o'clock on the 6th of December. Any other council reports? Thank you. In which case, I'd like to once again ask Rajiv to come. Well, no, firstly, I'll give the royal toast. To get your attention, I now ask you to give the royal toast, the Queen. The Queen. I now call upon Rajiv to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President. I'm delighted to introduce our speaker today, Kees van der Poel. He's been a Rotarian for 17 years, is a retired high school principal from British Columbia. He was president of the Rotary Club of Nakas from 2011 to 2013 and was Rotary 5080 district governor in 2016 and 17. Welcome, Kees. I didn't realize you're standing next to me, but let me carry on. He was the registrar of the 10 District Pacific Northwest PETS, that's the Rotary Presidents-elect Training. Director of the Waterton Glacier International Peace Park Association, for what he's going to be talking today. President of the Indus Peace Park Society. Director of the Kashmir Peace and Saving Paradise Board. His wife, Mayumi, became an assistant governor in July 2021. Both are Paul Harris Fellows and Rotary Leadership Institute graduates. They've been married for 43 years and live in Calgary. No? Your daughters live in Calgary, beg your pardon. But born in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, Kees attended the University of Victoria and the University of British Columbia. In '74, he spent a year in Tokyo and he's led 7 student tours of Europe. And now to hear from the man himself, Kees, over to you.
Thank you, Rajiv. So thank you, Rajiv, and thank you, President David, Vice President Ian, for having me here today. How is it that I come from a community of 1,500 in the wilds of British Columbia, and I'm here speaking to you about the Waterton Glacier International Peace Park? I could give you all sorts of figures and facts about Waterton Glacier, but as a Rotarian, I want to tell you my story, because stories always resonate better with other Rotarians. So when I was born in Rotterdam, and I was afflicted with asthma quite severely. And not that that was the reason why my parents decided to immigrate to Canada, but they did for a better life. We flew to Montreal and then took the train across to Vancouver. And I've spent most of my life in British Columbia. So I'd like to talk about my journey. I marvel at my journey. I've had so many opportunities, decisions that were made, turns that were made, timing, luck, coincidences, people that we met. And I'd like to tell about my Rotary story, about mentorship, more opportunities that I could shake a stick at, doors that opened to me, relationships that were formed. What we do, what we decide can take us to the unexpected. And the unexpected starts with some postage stamps. And I was a stamp collector as a young child, and my sister decided to get a pen pal from Japan. So I said to her, maybe your pen pal has a brother or somebody that would like to exchange stamps. To make a long story short, that relationship with that pen pal in Japan led me to marry my wife. Because I ended up going to Tokyo for a year to study Japanese. And my pen pal came back to Canada the following year. We ended up going to Vancouver to the consulate of the United States. And lo and behold, there was this petite Japanese lady there arguing with an official. And I had already vowed to help any Japanese that were in trouble. And to make a long story short, 43 years later, we're still there. So, secondly, a little piece of paper. When I was despondent about my job as a ditch digger, my mother had a piece of paper that says, why don't you become a teacher? I said, I don't want to do the same thing that my father does, which was a high school teacher. She said, be an elementary school teacher. You're good with the little kids. That led me to my decision to take up education. And I became a teacher, but not elementary. I had one practice session with elementary kids and I said, no, it's going to be secondary. Third thing, it's taking a left turn instead of taking a right. While looking for a job, we had approached the Alaska Highway and it was a T intersection. And we stood there for about 45 seconds. Do we go for another 500 miles north or do we give up and go south? But being a geographer, I'd never been this far north. I might as well keep going. So turned left and I ended up getting a job. That's a story in itself, how I got that. But it's interesting how life has these turns. So you can see here a map of British Columbia. I started my career in Telegraph Creek, a village of 300, 90% native and 10% draft dodgers from the United States. 3 years there, went to Cassiar, which is an asbestos mining town. Was there for 8 years. It's now a ghost town, and I have a touch of asbestosis in me. Then moved to Queen Charlotte City, which is about 50% native. The Haida Nation is there, and it's now called Haida Gwaii. And then I moved to where I live now, which is Nakusp, in the West Kootenays of British Columbia. Well, how did I end up in Nakusp? Well, on the Queen Charlotte City, guess what? My asthma came back in my last year, and I was in the hospital at least once a month for nebulizer treatments. And it wasn't until I reached Alberta, which is on the east side of the Rocky Mountains, where it's a lot drier, that I realized that I slept the whole night through. I needed to leave Queen Charlotte Islands. And so I ended up in Nakusp, and that's a picture of my village on the Columbia River. And now I have a blank. There it is. And so the Rotary story, Siegel and Gale, with the branding experience, they wanted to find out why people joined Rotary and why they stayed in Rotary. They joined for friendship. They joined to positively impact their community, wherever that community might be. And they stay in Rotary for the exact same reasons. So in Nakusp, a couple of Rotarians invited me to lunch and talked about Rotary, and it resonated with me, and I immediately became a Rotarian. I was in the Rotary Club of Nakusp for 5 years, and then I quit because there were internal politics, and it wasn't a good feeling. It wasn't a good fit for me. 5 years later, I rejoined the club, and I had a meteoric rise to be district governor. Every year, I went up, except for 2 years as a president. Became assistant governor, governor designate, and then to the district governor position. But I have that arrow between president and assistant governor. And this is where mentorship comes in. because Norm McCarville from my district was a district governor. He came to my club. He needed to replace himself because he was in the governor line. And he kept looking at me and he said, Case, why don't you consider it? And I said, I'm a nobody from Nakusp. Nobody even knows where Nakusp is. Anyway, long story short, he pestered me so much that I decided, okay, I'll throw my hat into the ring, and it happened. So that was the first thing that Norm did for me as a mentor. The second is he introduced me to the Waterton Glacier International Peace Park Association. He couldn't attend a meeting. And he said, Case, would you mind going to that meeting? And I attended the meeting in Helena, Montana, and I fell in love with the concept of an international peace park. By the way, this is not proper branding, and we are working at improving that. So Waterton Glacier International Peace Park straddles the Canadian and American border at the 49th parallel. Waterton Glacier is north, and Glacier National Park is south. By the way, there are two Glacier National Parks. One is in the States, and the second is in British Columbia. But everyone, when they talk about Glacier, they talk about the American one. The Waterton Glacier is about 500 square kilometers. Glacier National Park is 4,000 square kilometers. We have a relationship with the United States, we Canadians. We've been basically friendly since the War of 1812, which was really a British and American war. And later on, the Fenian raids of 1866 cemented the desire of our Canadian fathers not to have a republic like the US, but to have a constitutional monarchy. We did not become a country until 1867 with the British North America Act. And it was not until 1931 with the Statute of Westminster, which is a British law, that set the relationship between Great Britain and the Commonwealth countries. And it was the point at which Canada achieved independence from Britain. Friendship, as you can see here, has been common between our two nations ever since. And that ceremony predates the actual formation of the Waterton Glacier Park. This was in 1921. But in 1932, and this is Prince of Wales Hotel in Waterton National Park in Canada. 100 Rotarians from 7 Rotary clubs in Alberta, Saskatchewan, those are 2 provinces in Canada, and Montana in the States, had a goodwill meeting at this hotel. And looking out the window down the lake due south into the United States, people could not determine exactly which mountains were Canadian and which mountains were American. Nature has no boundary. So it began as a bold idea. Where no boundary could be, no boundary should be. Waterton Glacier International Peace Park is on the crown of the continent, and waters flow in 3 directions, to Hudson's Bay, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Pacific Ocean. This is the dedication ceremony at East Glacier in Montana in 1932. Hands Across the Border ceremony has happened ever since 1932. And it's a tradition. In 2019, I took this picture along the ribbon border between Canadians on the right and Americans on the left. In 2020, we had major fires raging through the park system. And so the actual assembly was canceled. There was a minor ceremony that took place in Waterton, but that was it. In 2021, we actually had a virtual Hands Across the Border ceremony. And at these ceremonies, we have dignitaries from both countries, and we invite students, whether they are interactors, Rotary Exchange students, or Rotaractors, to participate. But we are an old organization. We're in our 90th year. And we need to update our image. And last year, we decided to create 4 action teams. One was really serious. How do we engage the Indigenous people of the area into our organization, into the park system? Second was branding and promotions. We need to improve our image, that we're much more, people want to be with us in what we are attempting to do. Peace Action Center team. This is focusing on creating an actual area building on both sides of the border that will emphasize what we're trying to do. And the fourth is the outreach action team, which includes the attempt to create a fellowship of international peace parks and to have Rotary acknowledge that. And thirdly, which is what I'm part of, the Indus Peace Park. So here's just an example of what Glacier National Park looks like. And one of the famous things to do as a tourist is to go on the Going to the Sun Road. A spectacular journey that I've done twice now. It's closed in the wintertime because they have massive snow accumulation. Here's another picture of it. If you ever have a chance to come and visit us, that is the road to take. With all this beauty, we have created a pledge. In the name of all we hold sacred, we will not take up arms against each other. We will work for peace, maintain liberty, strive for freedom, and demand equal opportunities for all. May the long existing peace between our nations stimulate other peoples to follow this example. And it's this last bit that led to my mentor providing me the third opportunity. When I was going for governor-elect training on the big island of Hawaii, I signed up to go on a national immunization day to India, not knowing that my wife had signed up for an NID to Ethiopia. Norma Carville said, well, why are you going to those two places? Because our district has a second friendship exchange with Pakistan. I said, sure, I'll go. I just want to go on an NID. So this is a picture of me in Multan, Pakistan, giving polio drops to my driver's daughter. As a result of my trip there, I ended up becoming part of the Indus Peace Park. We were supposed to see 3 touristy things in Pakistan. One was the fort in Lahore, which we did. The second was a cricket match in Faisalabad, which was denied to us because of tensions. Don't forget, we arrived in Pakistan 2 months after the school massacre in Peshawar. Lots of people were very worried about our safety. The third thing that we were supposed to see was the changing of the guard on the Indian-Pakistan border. That was denied to us. So I suggested to my host, I'm a director on Waterton Glacier. We're trying to create more peace parks. Why don't you use the no man's land on your border with India to create a peace park? And that was the germ of the idea. To make a long story short, because I believe you have heard about Indus Peace Park already. That's why I'm here today. You see Tony Sharma, Vice President, Mohammed Ayaz, Vice President here, Rajiv, and we have a patron, Lord Rami Ranger. And again, why I'm here is because he has invited us to meet with the governor of Punjab, Pakistan, on Wednesday. When I arrived, one of the things that I wanted to do was to see Kew Gardens. So Mo took me there. We have many pictures of our visit there, but this picture in particular reminds me of what I hope to see on the Indus Peace Park. open space where people can gather with friendship, share experiences, and so on. This is not unlike this picture, which is the International Peace Garden on the border of Manitoba, the province of Manitoba, and the state of North Dakota. This waterway is the 49th parallel. It's the border between Canada and the US. And going into this park, oh my voice. Going into this park, you can go to both sides of the border without having any border control. Thank you. My apologies. That's my wife with the CEO of the International Peace Garden. If you ever have a chance to go to Waterton, make sure you have a chance to go to the International Peace Garden. Connections. This is Maria Liavkov. She was the one that provided a number of the photographs and some of the material that I've been using. Was the president of the Radium Hot Springs Rotary Club. And this is where the connections come in. Norma Carville, in my governor year, went to a community near, Radium Hot Springs to talk about Waterton Glacier. Maria is a dual citizen of both the United States and Canada. She fell in love with the concept of a peace park. She wanted to become a director. So she asked how she could do that. I said, if you become my assistant governor, I will get you to be a director. So she became a director and she worked her way up. She's going to be president of Waterton Glacier in 22 to 24. But back to stamps. I know Ian likes this. Where has stamps led me? Well, I retired as a high school principal. I've taken odd jobs to help pay for my way on these trips that I take. I work Elections Canada. I'm a substitute teacher, but I'm also a mailman. I'm a relief postman for rural mail delivery in the cusp. So this is me in the summer. I like being a fair weather mailman. And this is me, not me, but this is on my trip last week, delivering mail in the cusp. So it's, again, relationships, it's coincidences, it's mentorship, it's opportunities. That's why I'm here. And I want to thank you so much for having me. Oh, there you Oh, we'll swap.
Thank you very much indeed, Case, for giving us that talk. And before we go any further, we will ask Clive to help with questions. Clive, can you?
Yes, thank you. If anybody has any
we'll try to
questions.
alternate them if we can.
Yeah, we can. If anybody has any, who's on Zoom has any questions, can you please raise your hand from the reactions button? That will bring you to the top of the screen, or unmute yourself. Eve Conway.
Yeah,
Eve, would you?
thanks very much. That was excellent. And obviously, we have got a little bit of experience about the Indus Peace Park, having been to the Houses of Parliament just before the lockdown in 2020. And obviously, I know that Tony and Mo were both there. So really, my question is, in terms of the Indus Peace Park, when do you think that this might be possible? Because obviously there have been tensions, and I know you've identified some land now. So when is your hope that we will see this peace park actually in operation?
That's a very good question. They erected the Berlin Wall in the 60s. It didn't come down until the 90s. So we have hopes that the Peace Park will either happen next year, in 10 years' time, or before I die. We were planning to go to India and Pakistan in March of 2020, and 10 hours before departure, we canceled the trip due to COVID. We are meeting Governor Sarwar on Wednesday in hopes of advancing the actual acquisition of land. Without a canvas, we cannot paint a peace park. So we do know where the land is that we would like. It's just a matter of the governments and the politicians from making it happen.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the room? I think Case seems to have answered almost all the questions. I would like to ask you the leading question, Case. How has peace improved between America and Canada since the peace park was established?
I think peace will always be there, but people need to understand that Canadians are different from Americans. And I hope the Americans understand that.
So it's really mutual understanding that gives peace. Yeah, okay, well, thank you very much indeed. I'd just like to give a brief vote of thanks to Case. I'm throwing away my notes. From your background, Case, it's clear that you take challenges. You like adventure. You don't go climbing Krakatoa without, sort of thinking that's an interesting thing to do, and I'd like to get to the top. And you do get to the top. You accept a challenge. You pursue a challenge, and from all your background that we can see, you achieve the result.
Thank you. So I hope
that, Eve, is the answer to your question, really. As soon as Case can organise it, it will happen. And anything we can do to help him do it, which is why he's here today, we will help perhaps an element of that progress. We could be talking in 10 years, certainly not less than 3. You understand national governments. You understand that at COP26, there was no way we could get India and Pakistan to meet and talk about this. Perhaps in COP26 in 5 years' time, who knows? But these are the challenges that Rotary International is unique in its ability to resolve, which is why we're all together working on this. So thank you, Case.
Thank you very much for having me.
We'd like to do now an exchange of banners.
Okay.
Maybe do it this. Can you see that, Kiko, or do we need to move? Thank you. Thank you very much for your banner from District 5080, Nakusp. Valley of Hot Springs. You don't have to go to Iceland. You can go to Nakusp. Our time is just about up. Any further notices that people would like to give? In which case, I think...
Can I just ask, sorry to interrupt you, President David, do you have a speaker certificate for Case?
We do. Thank you for reminding me, Clive. It was circulating, collecting signatures. So, Case, I will now present Case with the speaker certificate. But, Case, we present this to every speaker at the time. Now we do it, and it's lovely to be able to do it. Lovely to be able to do it in person, because somehow the digital version doesn't quite communicate.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Clive. Moving on then to the final toast, which is to Rotary and Peace the world over. So peace parks, everything we do, Rotary does. Rotary and peace the world over.
Rotary and peace the world over.
Thank you.